What if I told you that perfectionism isn't really about excellence at all? That behind the drive, the diligence, the high standards is a coping mechanism, a way to manage fear and deep rooted beliefs that have been shaping your life, often without you even realizing it. And once you start to notice that, once you understand what's really driving the pattern, everything begins to shift. Because awareness is powerful and it interrupts that autopilot. And when you're no longer unconsciously living by the old script, you finally have a choice. The power to rewrite the story and just break free from these patterns that no longer serve you. Hi, and welcome to my channel. I'm Isa Dabek, the self-sabotage specialist. I help founders and professionals end procrastination, overcome self-doubt, anxiety, so that they can expand their potential with confidence and clarity. Now, in this video, I'm going to uncover the fears, emotions, and beliefs that are fueling that relentless pursuit of unrealistic standards. The patterns that keeping you stuck, stalling your progress, and leaving you exhausted. So whether you're a founder, a creative, or a high achiever, this is for you. Now, I do want to mention that this video is one in a three-part series that explores perfectionism, what it is, how it manifests, why it develops, and the root causes behind it. So you can find links to the other videos on this topic in the description. But for now, let's begin by exploring the core fears behind perfectionism. So at the core lies something deeper than just the desire to do well. It is the fear of failure. And it's not just about making a mistake or being upset that you didn't do well. It's the fear of what that perceived failure might mean about who you are. For a perfectionist, when something doesn't go according to plan, it's rarely just a setback of, oh, well, that didn't work. Let's just learn from it. Instead, it feels like a devastating failure, and it hits on a deeply personal level. It can feel humiliating, even crushing. It triggers shame and reinforces the hidden beliefs that so many perfectionists work tirelessly to outrun. Beliefs like, I am not good enough, I'm not capable, there's something wrong with me. So making mistakes may confirm those worst fears that this might actually be true. So the perfectionist does everything so that that stays hidden. Like, let's say you have a presentation tomorrow, you've worked on it all week, but it's 2 a.m. and you're still tweaking fonts and rewording titles. Not because the content isn't ready, but because you're not ready. And you keep on thinking, what if I mess this up? What if I look unprepared? And deep down, it's not even about the slides. It's about the fear that if somebody criticizes those slides, they're actually criticizing you. Because you judge yourself so harshly that you assume that everybody else judges you the same way. Now, perfectionists carry a deep fear of making mistakes, where there is no room for errors here. And there are certain thoughts that appear over and over again, such as, I can't mess this up, or the classic one, what if I fail and humiliate myself? What will people say? Or better not to try than to try and fail. And these kind of beliefs are often rooted in early life experiences. Maybe you were criticized a lot or mocked or even punished when you made a mistake as a child. And maybe you often felt accepted or valued when you were achieving, when you got the good grades, when you hit those sports goals, when you followed the rules. Now, over time, what happens is your nervous system started to associate failure not just with disappointment, but with danger, rejection, loss of love. So a belief is created in those moments. I have to be perfect to be loved. And that's why perfectionism can be so intense and so consuming, because it becomes not just about striving to be your best, it becomes about not being seen at your worst. And that's why sharing your ideas and launching something that you really care about can carry huge emotional weight. It can feel very risky, exposing, and makes one feel vulnerable. Now, sometimes perfectionists even feel that their entire self-worth is on the line. So even the most intelligent, capable, and talented people get stuck here, okay? Because this fear does not discriminate. It can paralyze you even before you begin to take action. Imagine a visionary, somebody who is an inventor, somebody with an amazing idea that they have, refusing to release their life's work, not because it's not ready, but because the fear of criticism and judgment and failure outweighs the potential of success. So just because somebody is intelligent, it doesn't mean that they necessarily believe in themselves. And this is the heartbreaking part of perfectionism. It hides the very gifts and talents that the world needs. And the irony, by the way, of perfectionism is that in trying so hard to avoid failure, you create it. You miss opportunities, deadlines pass, you lose momentum, you get overwhelmed, you get stuck in that loop. Like, for example, when you're invited to speak on a panel or pitch a bold idea, and then your first thought is, of course, to say no. It's scary. And you tell yourself you are not ready, somebody else can do it better. And you tell them, I will think about it. But by the time you talk yourself into being ready, the opportunity is gone. Not because you couldn't do it, but because you didn't believe in yourself or that you could do it perfectly. But the truth is, failure doesn't mean that you are not enough. It does not define your worth. It's part of the whole process. And often it's exactly where growth begins. Now, if you would like to find out what the real reasons behind self-sabotaging patterns are and how to end procrastination and self-doubt, then check out my free 60-minute training packed with value and insight. For your information, the link is in the description. And for now, let's talk about the fear of not meeting expectations. Because for so many high achievers, this one runs deep. Now, on the one hand, there are the expectations that you think others have of you, the ones you've built in your mind and now feel obliged to meet. Maybe you're trying to keep everybody happy, clients, your team, family, your audience, your children, your partner. Maybe you become the one holding it all together, constantly performing, proving. And imagine all that pressure that comes with it, right? And on the other hand, it's the crushing weight of the expectations that you put on yourself, those impossibly high standards that just never seem to let off. And it's that perfect version of you that you've created. And of course, it is all about that fear now that if you don't meet those expectations, you will disappoint somebody, that you will lose something important like love, respect, acceptance. Now, you might also feel like you're letting yourself down, feeling like you are not living up to that version of you that you thought you would be by now. And that's when the boundaries begin to blur, you see, because you start stretching yourself thin, you go beyond and above, you say yes when you want to say no. You may start overcommitting, not because you have to, but because somewhere inside you're afraid of what it would mean if you didn't. So you might have convinced yourself that it's what's necessary to fit in, to be valued, to be loved, to be accepted. So perfectionism feeds off this need to prove your worth. And that's why you may end up chasing validation all the time, hoping that by meeting these expectations, you will finally earn your place. So it's connected to this belief that unless you constantly overachieve and excel, you don't deserve peace, rest, or self-acceptance. Next, we have the fear of not being good enough. Now, beyond the expectations lies that belief, okay? I am not good enough. And this is that deep, painful belief that perfectionism is built on. And it says, if I get this right, maybe I'll finally feel like I'm enough. So even now, let me ask you, just to finish these sentences without thinking, just the first thing that comes up, I'm going to read them and then you can say them out loud, finish the sentence. I will be enough when. Finish the sentence. I will be enough when. When what? Another one. I am not enough unless. So finish this sentence. I am not enough unless. Keep on asking yourself and see what comes up. because this belief becomes a lens through which you view yourself, your work, and the world. And when you carry this belief, your self-worth feels fragile, of course. It's dependent on your ability to perform flawlessly. So when you have this belief, and let's say you succeed at something, it might feel good for a moment, but it doesn't really last because that voice in your head still says you could have done better. So this happened to one of my clients actually, who had just closed a huge deal, something that she was working on for over a year. But the next day, instead of actually celebrating, she felt anxious. And because her first thought was, now I have to prove that it wasn't a fluke, I have to maintain this level. So she didn't really allow herself to even feel proud, to be happy, to experience joy, because deep down her success wasn't a reflection of her worth, right? It was just another test that she had to pass. And when she passed it, it just wasn't enough. So let's look at the next fear behind perfectionism. And it is that deep and primal fear, the fear of rejection. And it says, if I'm not perfect, I won't be accepted. If I'm not flawless, I'm going to be abandoned. That if people saw the real you, they would just turn away. Now, from a neurobiological perspective, this is your nervous system trying to protect you because it equates a rejection with danger. Because we are wired to belong, to be part of a group. So our mind does everything it can to keep us from being cast out, including pushing us to be perfect. So this fear, when it gets triggered, is not just about feeling bad. It's as if you are in a real danger, like your heart races, you feel anxious, you might even freeze up. And from this deep fear of rejection comes the perfectionist strategy to control everything, to correct everything, never let your guard down, and just hide the flaws and perform constantly. So maybe you did grow up in an environment where perfection was expected. And what happens is over time, that kind of environment wires the nervous system to equate mistakes with rejection. And it says, if I'm not perfect, I won't be loved. And so in that respect, perfectionism becomes a protective mechanism to gain approval and to feel safe. And this keeps you from being truly seen, from feeling truly free. And while, of course, it may offer some temporary relief, it can also keep you trapped in the cycle of anxiety and self-judgment. But let's continue down the rabbit hole because perfectionism is really a shield for shame. It is a strategy to avoid it. So it says, if I do everything perfectly, nobody's going to see my flaws. I'm going to have nothing to be ashamed of, and I'm going to be safe from judgment and rejection. So the idea here is simple. If you can control your performance, if you can create flawless work or be the perfect version of yourself, then nobody will ever have this chance to judge you or criticize you or abandon you. So here it's not about doing your best. It's about avoiding the pain of shame. But the truth is, perfectionism doesn't protect you from shame. It actually amplifies it because it reinforces the belief that you are not enough unless you perform at 100%. So, of course, you waste your time and it erodes the trust you have in yourself and others. But there is more because at the core, at the heart of perfectionism is the belief I don't love or accept myself unconditionally. And this is deeply hidden from awareness, but it drives everything. And this is exactly what needs to be worked on and healed, that self-rejection. Because at the core of it, it's really to do with self-acceptance, you see, because if you accepted yourself, you wouldn't need to prove anything to anybody. And believe me, that is extremely freeing. Because your worth is not conditioned, you don't need to earn it, and it doesn't depend on your performance or how others perceive you or whether you hit every mark perfectly. Your worth is inherent, okay? It cannot be earned or actually lost based on what you do. So as you can see, perfectionism doesn't protect you. It traps you. It keeps you in that cycle of never feeling enough, of always chasing this moving target that never really delivers that sense of security and acceptance that you are longing for. It isolates you. And it's not sustainable because as humans, we are not actually perfect. We are beautifully, brilliantly flawed. Or a better way of putting it, we are perfect in our imperfections. And our imperfections are what makes us authentic and capable of growth. Yet when you tie your sense of worth to flawlessness, you're setting yourself up for constant emotional pain. And so no matter how hard you try, perfection is going to remain out of reach. And then you kind of lose sight of what really matters, like growth, connection, sharing your talent, your knowledge, because connection happens when you show up as your authentic self. And the journey out of perfectionism is not about lowering down your standards at all. It's about reclaiming your self-worth and self-acceptance. It's about facing the beliefs, the fears, and emotions that you have been avoiding and healing them from the inside out. And the moment you begin to untangle your worth from your results, the moment you start to see mistakes as human and not something to be ashamed of, is the moment you start to feel free. But to truly feel that, you have to start letting go of the belief that your value depends on your achievements or on how perfect you appear to be. Now, if perfectionism has been running the show, keeping you in cycles of self-doubt and burnout or procrastination, I want you to know that you don't have to go through this alone. I help founders, creatives, and professionals like you heal the root causes of perfectionism by releasing the shame that fuels it. And through deep inner work, nervous system healing, and subconscious rewiring, we untangle your worth from your results so you can show up in your true self, in that confidence that's inherent in you. And then you can also achieve more in less time. So if this resonates with you and you are ready to do the deep work, to understand yourself on a deeper level, to quieten down the inner critic and to rewrite the story that you've been living, I invite you to explore my one-to-one sessions. You can check in the descriptions on how we can work together. And because the fact that you are here still listening means something, that maybe you are ready. Maybe you're ready to shift your mindset, expand your perspective, and take your power back. So remember to hit the subscribe button. There's so much more I'll be sharing with you in the upcoming videos. And if you want to go deeper to understand what's really behind your self-sabotaging patterns, check out my free 60-minute training. It's packed with insights that can help you break through these patterns for good. And I will see you in the next video where I talk about the root causes of perfectionism. See you soon.